This podcast was recorded on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Mad About You. Lach's kicking things off with a very, very interesting story for you today. He's very kindly dug into the archives of his own dating stories.
Yeah, I wanted to keep this one to myself. I tossed and turned about whether I wanted to share it with you guys, but it is quite a goodie, and so I thought I would finally come to the table with one of my own. So, as you guys know, I worked at a club for many, many years. I had the pleasure of meeting lots of people in that time, and there was
Who
a time.
was the best one?
Yeah, you're the best at everything.
Yeah.
So there was this time where, I was single, and I think it was actually, if I remember correctly, I think it was after Jad and I dated the first time, as in just to give you a timeline. So probably we're talking almost 10 years ago. And there was this woman, and she would come to the club. She was a little bit older than me at the time by 5 or 6 years. And every time she would come, she would ask me this cheeky question. She would say, "When are you taking me on a date this week?" And she would just say that and come in. And then she would come out a few times during the night and be like, "When are you going to take me on a date this week?" And unfortunately, she wasn't really my type. So I said to her, I said, "Look, I'm not really trying to date at the moment." And that was sort of what I gave her. And I gave it to her plenty of times. And then it got to the point where, she came back every single week and continued to ask, to which I had to tell her eventually. I said, "Look, I'm really sorry, but you're just not really my type. So I don't really see this going anywhere." To which that didn't stop her. She still persisted and came a couple of weeks more and continued to ask. And she would just ask the same question every week. She'd go, "When are you taking me on a date this week?" Just trying to be cheeky, to the point where it got to the point, and I just said, "Look, okay, I'll take you on a date." So as in, we figured out a time, and I picked her up later in the week. So we get into the car. Oh, mind you, let me backtrack 1 second. Every time she'd come in, one of my closest mates, who I worked with at the time on the door, he was the security guard that protected me with his life. It was lovely, a great bond we had. But he said to me, "I recognize that chick from somewhere." He goes, "I can't put my finger on it, but I just recognize her from somewhere." And I went, "Okay, well, unless you got something to tell me, I got to go on this date now." So I picked her up during the week.
I must go.
She got in the car, and we're driving to wherever we were going. I can't remember. But the first question she asked me, she goes, "So why are you single?" And I said, "Look, I just got out of something." I said, I wasn't really looking to date. So I'm just single because that's, sort of the timing in my life right now. And me being an absolute idiot, I said, "What about yourself?" I said, "Why are you single?" And she goes, which hit me for six. Let me tell you, my jaw, I honestly had to pick it up off the floor. She goes, "My boyfriend's actually in jail." And I went, "Oh."
He's gone, "I'm actually not single."
Yeah, she goes, "My boyfriend's actually in jail." And I went, "Oh, awesome." Here I am in the car on the way to the date. It's not like she's at the club telling me this and I can be like, "Oh, awesome, I'll never talk to this chick
It's
again."
your first sentence.
We're en route to the date. And I go, like an idiot, I go, "What's he in jail for?" And she goes, "Murder." And I go, "Wait." I go, "Just to clarify," I go, "Is he on trial for murder or is he in jail for murder?" And she goes, "Yeah, he's convicted. He's convicted of murder." And I went,
Okay.
"Oh." And then she proceeded to tell me the whole car trip there, how he's innocent and how, he didn't do it and this and that, and they got this wrong. And I was kind of just thinking to myself, man, he's convicted of murder. As in, it's not like umming and ahhing. It's not maybe he did it, maybe he didn't. This guy is sitting behind bars. And then, like an idiot, me liking true crime, I go, "What did he do?" I go, "What did he do?" And she goes, "He murdered his ex-missus." And I was thinking to myself, you're the current missus, and you're defending this guy who murdered his ex-missus and is currently sitting behind bars for it.
So bad.
And so here I am,
It's like the
in
worst.
the car with this chick. And honestly, I can't explain to you how fast my heart was going. I was just like, "Oh, I don't want a bar of this." This chick's a bit of a Fruit Loop. No offense. She's defending her boyfriend who's in jail for murder. I didn't even really ask. She said boyfriend. She didn't say ex-boyfriend. I'm not even sure if they're still together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if she's got this thing where she's allowed to date while he's in jail because he's going to be there a couple of decades. I don't know what's going on. So we go on this date. It's bloody weird. She kind of is always interjecting, saying that he's innocent. And I'm just like, whoa, this is a lot. So the date ends. Nothing happens from it. No kiss, nothing. Because I'm just like, whoa, this is not for me. I get to work the next day. And I tell my mate, security guard, I go, you're not going to believe what happened on this date. I go, this is what happened. And he goes to me. He goes, that's where I know her from. He goes, I've actually seen her like online in newspaper articles, in TV, because like she was with this dude and she was by his side like as he got convicted. So, and then within 2 seconds he had like pulled up like old newspaper articles and old stories online, and like it was her face like standing next to this dude as he got convicted. And I literally felt sick to my stomach. I was like, oh my gosh, this is wild. And I just said to my man, I said, you didn't want to come to you maybe a couple of days earlier and I didn't have to go on this date. But as in, that to me was just one of the worst dates of my entire life, where I had to sit there with this chick who was still dating a murderer and was defending him whilst trying to, I don't know, get to know me. And I didn't want to get to know her. And it was just heinous.
Were you scared?
Oh, yeah, it was a weird one. I was quite young, so it was a lot to take in, you know. And like I'm a pretty straighty 180 kind of guy. I'm a very law-abiding citizen. I don't really, you know, I get scared when a cop pulls up behind you. I'm not even doing anything wrong, you know. Like that's me. And so yeah, this chick, it was a lot to take in. But yeah, that's my wild dating story.
That's
this
crazy.
Week, guys.
That's definitely one of the wildest dating stories I've ever heard. And you know, we've got to thank you on behalf of the listeners for finally, you know, giving us that story, because it would have been a shame to keep that to yourself.
Yeah, honestly, it's got me a little bit rattled just bringing it up again, if I'm being honest. So
okay,
I hope you guys enjoy it, and just do a little bit of vetting and research before you go on dates with people.
Yeah.
And you know, persistence doesn't always work out. So you know, if someone's bugging you to go on a date 30 times, just keep it at the no you initially said.
You know what people need to do? If they've got a photo of the person they're going on a date with, reverse Google image.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Well, see if they come up with any murder stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, chances are probably low, but it'll happen.
You never know.
All right, guys, this week on Mad About You, we wanted to delve into the world of social media and sort of also touch on the impact it's having on people's mental health. Now, social media is, you know, it's an insanely difficult place to navigate. It can be used for good by, you know, allowing you to connect with people and educate, inspire, and motivate. But then it can come with, you know, it's shady sort of grey areas of you know, people experiencing FOMO or bullying and ridicule, overuse, addiction, and you know, accessing false information. So I think as much as we'd like to think that we can enjoy all the positives and sort of keep the negatives at bay, as adults even, I think we struggle with it. And so I can't even sort of imagine what the younger generation is going through when it comes to social media and its impact on their mental health.
Absolutely.
As you guys know, Jad and I pretty much live our lives online. Like, we use our social platforms, you know, to share our lives, run our businesses, and obviously, you know, connect with you guys as we're doing right now with our pod. And let me just tell you, if I had access to everything that kids have access to these days, and I was 16 and you gave me an iPhone with access to the world, I would have done so differently in life, I think. I don't think I would have studied. I don't think I would have been able to keep my head in a textbook. I don't think I would have been able to concentrate on anything of note for longer than 5 minutes. And so I can sort of understand how kids these days are sort of suffering a little bit with social media use and their mental health, because I remember back to being 16 and all you want to do is have fun. You want to have a good time. You're thinking in the now. You're not thinking about your actions and the consequences and how it's going to affect your future. So I don't think that at the end of the day we can really blame kids for their excessive social media use, because they're made to be, you know, unbelievably addictive and entertaining platforms, which they have sort of in their pockets in the palm of their hands.
Absolutely. What did we have? We had Harry Potter and the Puppet Pals. Do you remember that?
No.
Snape, Severus Snape. Do you remember that video on YouTube?
No, I still don't remember it.
Okay, I'll show it to you later.
But
we had that. We had that guy Fred.
Okay.
Do you remember Fred?
No.
Did you go on the YouTube?
No, not
Jenna
like you.
Marbles?
I remember Jenna Marbles. She was like an original YouTube
Yeah.
creator, but I don't really remember what she created.
But this is what we would consume, right? And now you've got that, like, and everyone would watch the same three people or the same, the same video at the end of the day, at the end of the school day, and come home and talk about it. Now everyone's got everything, access to everything.
Yeah, and I think these platforms also, like, they push the extremes to people, because extremes are what gives people sort of like the wow factor, and all these platforms are competing for people's attention, so they need to show you the craziest things, so you go, oh wow, I want to see more of that, and you scroll, and they've already algorithmically put you in a little tube, and they've given you the next video that they can find closest or most similar to that, which is going to keep you there. And so yeah, it's a strange one, but when preparing for this pod, I read somewhere that the latest Headspace Youth Mental Health Survey came back with 51% of young people wanted to get off and disconnect from social media, but were worried about being left behind and out of the loop with current events, gossip, and trends. And so when you actually think about that, and you think about walking the streets and seeing every little kid with their head in their phones, half those kids don't want social media. Like, they see it as a negative and taking away from their lives, but they're too scared to not be on it because all their friends are on it and all the information they consume is on it, and they're scared to miss out on those things. And I think that's quite a horrible thing for these kids to know it's bad, detrimental for them, their mental health. They want to get off, but they literally can't. And that's aided by these sort of companies, with unlimited budgets, hiring the most intelligent people on the planet in order to create an environment which is so addictive for you that you want to be there. So it's a horrible little predicament to be in for young people.
I also asked our audience how they felt about social media and its kind of impact on their day-to-day lives, and 60% of people said that they felt kind of neutral about it, and 30% said they felt negatively about it, and 10% said they felt positively about it. So it's crazy that we have this tool at our hands that we're using for hours of the day, and then you come back with 10% of people saying that it's impacting their lives positively. Yeah. But are continuing, I'm sure, to go on every single day and spend hours and hours, I know I do, wasting away on these apps that just.
And if you think about that stat as well, you got 10% that think it's positive, so that's a horrible number, and then you got 30% that are honest and say, like, this negatively affects me, whether it's my mental health or my capacity to do things in life or take me away from areas that I need to concentrate, and then you got 60% that say neutral. I reckon a large percentage of that 60% is just not really being honest about how it is affecting them, because it's a tough thing to look in the mirror and go like, oh man, I'm kind of addicted to this thing, and it's not doing me any good. So
absolutely.
I'm sure if you delved a little deeper into that 60% and asked them a few more questions, they'd probably come out and tell you that it's not impacting them positively at all.
I wonder whether the fact that we've kind of normalized its use has pulled away from people acknowledging that they do have a serious addiction to it.
Yeah, well, that survey showed, like, kids want to get away from it, but they feel like they need to be a part of it. Like it's almost like it's just a part of life now. Like you have to be on these platforms, you have to be consuming the information, you have to be up to date with news and current events and trends, and you don't want to miss out on what happened at the party that you maybe didn't go to on the weekend, because if you can watch a few stories and see what went on, perhaps you felt like you were there, so it's a shame. But
I think it was within the span of a few days that we went from like brat girl summer to being demure and mindful.
You're going to have to say that in English for
Lach
me.
doesn't even know what that means.
What?
These are micro trends on TikTok, right? Where I don't even know how they establish. It's like one video goes viral, or obviously Charlie XCX and Billy came out with that the remix of her song. And
wait, am I meant to know who Charlie XCX is?
An artist.
Okay.
Someone who sings.
Beautiful.
But yeah, has created a movement of brat, which has turned into brat girl summer. And
what does that mean?
Well, everyone's going to be bratty for summer, right?
Wait, why is that something that we're like?
That's what I'm saying.
Shining a light as like a positive thing.
It's it's crazy how we're jumping from micro trend to micro trend within days, and you can't even keep up. Like, you can't even prepare to be brat girl summer because then you have to be, mindful and demure.
Yeah, but I think this is how also social media affects kids and adults perhaps differently, right? So as in kids at school who are on the bus and probably talking about these micro trends of brat girl summer, whatever the hell that even means. Like, I can perhaps understand if you got 20 people around you talking about it and you got no idea what's going on, perhaps you might feel a little bit left out or, that might negatively affect you. But like, as an adult, you tell me there's a micro trend of brat girl summer, I couldn't give two shits.
Yeah.
Like, I'd actually rather not know about it and not know what that means because it probably would
agree.
hurt my brain knowing what it is.
But I bet you almost every teenage girl at school would know what brat girl summer is right now,
Yeah, and that sucks.
And,
that
I
those
see all
things
these-
become global trends that just are nothing. And like, why are you highlighting in a positive light that you want to be a brat through summer? Like, brat when I was growing up was what you called a little rat kid that was like an ungrateful little swine. You called them a brat, and that wasn't a good thing. It wasn't like I want to wear this as a badge of
I
honor.
know.
Brat girl summer.
Yeah, we're really leaning into our negative traits lately.
Yeah, it seems like an interesting ladder to be
And
climbing.
then you've got kids, saying things like skibbity toilet riz. What does that mean? What does that?
I think you need to delete these apps because
But this is what
you
these
can't
kids
be
are
teaching
saying.
our kid about skiddity toilet riz.
Yeah, what is that? What is that?
Why are you asking me?
Think about the children.
I don't even want to talk about that. That makes me sick to know that that's even a thing. All right, I think the main thing when it comes to social media and its negative impact on people's mental health, whether that be anxiety, depression, loneliness. I've read a couple of studies and those things became rampant and some stats have like doubled since the 2010 2015 area where social media sort of came to us and then became like widespread adoption whereby every single kid has it. You'd be hard pressed to find a kid who doesn't have an Instagram account, I think, a Facebook account, access to TikTok, like as in access to YouTube. Like it as you said, it's like normality now, these kids having that. But I think one of the main things which I experience as an adult, and so I can only imagine a kid who doesn't really understand how to manage their emotions deals with like social comparison, like when you watch TikToks, YouTubes, Instagram, Reels, videos, you're often shown the craziest of crazy things, whether it's where people are eating at restaurants on the side of cliffs in crazy place in the world. They're driving beautiful cars. They're wearing crazy clothes. They're skiing down crazy mountains. Like you just see the craziest of things and you sit there probably on your toilet or, on the bus home from school and you're going like, wow, like this is some people's life. And I'm sitting here like about to eat my can of spring water tuna on the bus home. Like that's a grim existence, So as in, I think that showing people all these amazing, phenomenal things all the time gets them into this negative spiral of like comparing themselves and their lives to, these moments that they see online, which I think is really detrimental, not only for adults, but, for kids especially.
And it's not real a lot of the time. And we've traveled to locations that I've seen on social media. It's because someone's taken a really cool photo of it. And I've had this idea of what it's like, and then I get there and it's really not that at all. Or, there's this beautiful picturesque kind of spot, and then as soon as you turn around, it's a completely different kind of location that isn't very nice and you don't really want to be spending time in. And it's such a good example of how social media can falsely portray life, and we know that people aren't showing their lives for what they always and really are, and the negative elements. And for example, we've just had a kid and I see a lot of influencers showing their kids in all these cute little outfits and, oh, we're doing this nice thing and look how pretty this is, and oh, my child's always happy-go-lucky. Oh my gosh, we're probably doing it right now, But you're
I
not
think
going
that's a
to you're not
choice
going to
that we've
post
made, though.
You're not
As in,
going
like,
to
I
post a
don't-
video of your child screaming in your face, at 2 a.m. and not going down for the whole night, are you?
Yeah, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think with a kid it's different. I think that you do the right thing by showing the positive. Because I think that, let's say, for example, your kid's screaming, or, you're changing a nappy and they do a little squirty number 2 and it hits the wall. It's like, if,
Not
like, I would almost
squirty,
think you're a bit of an idiot if you whipped out your phone in those moments to record them. You know what I mean? So as in, and I also think it's not really fair. Like, if you're posting positive, beautiful things about your kid, and one day, your kid's going to grow up and is going to see those things. But I don't think it's fair to post the the tantrums and the doing number 2s on the wall and things like that, because that's your kid who is one day going to be an adult and is going to have access to these things. And I don't think it's fair to sort of push those things out without their sort of, I don't know, permission almost.
I mean, yeah, it's a tricky one. Each to their own. At the end of the day, like, it's your child, so it's your choice what you think is right or not right for them. And we've got our own boundaries that we've set. So. But yeah, we're not posting the bad stuff, are we? And that's our choice, because we don't feel like it's right for him to have those vulnerable moments kind of posted online. And that's the discussion that we had when we started kind of posting things. But we're absolutely not sharing the hardships, because, well, firstly, you don't really want to whip your phone out when something's really difficult and you're stressed and you're on the verge of tears because your child's been crying for so long. But yeah, this is the perception that people have of everything on social media now, is they see all of the good stuff. And even my experience with my body postpartum, like my body's changed a bit, and I see people who've had kids and they look pretty much identical to how they did before they had kids. And I can't help but, occasionally compare myself a little bit. And I would say I'm one of the people who are pretty strong minded and confident, in themselves and their bodies. And, I still can't help but be like, oh, why didn't mine go back exactly to the way that it was? And, a part of me is glad that it didn't, because I think that what I've done by growing a child is really incredible and magical. And I feel very lucky to have been able to do that. So, in a way, I look at my body and I go, oh, that's really cool, that there was a whole child in there, and it would be weird if it looked exactly the same. But yeah, another part of me is like, well, why? Why do some people look like this?
But that makes sense, when you're constantly shown images of, as you said, people who look the same, you can't help but as a human go, why aren't I like that? Like, why am I different? And so you think about your brain and your maturity and how you can sort of decipher between, right and wrong. But it's like, you got a 14, 16-year-old having those same thoughts. It's like they don't always have the emotional maturity to get to the same outcome that you have in your mind. But I also think that's actually something that you do unbelievably well online in social media. You always hear about that, you hear people saying, like, just remember it's just a highlight reel, of what you're seeing. And that's a great message to push out. But I think that you really push it out by literally having like multiple pages online where you have this beautiful curated feed and images on one page, because you love nice things, and you're a lover of fashion, and you think those things are amazing, and you've made a career out of them, which is great. But then I think that you also have seen sort of the negative impact of people believing that that's reality and that's life. And so you've actively tried to create a safer space in other pages to show people that there's another side to all this, and like I am this goose, and this is what I actually get up to, and like these are single moments that you capture, but this is reality. And I think that is such a positive influence, I think, that you have really on young men and women by just like sort of reminding them about the realities of life outside of the 2-second video you see or a photo you see on a screen of social media.
I've always tried to keep it real to some degree, and that you've reminded me that I've neglected my real Instagram account for a while, so I'll try to get back on there. But I think I've tried to just integrate everything into, video content or stories or whatever, and just tried to, lift the veil a little bit across all platforms.
Well, let's say you have 3 platforms that you're very active on, which is like your Instagram, you have 2 pages, and then your TikTok. And I think literally only one of those now is like more of like a, nice things and a curated thing. And I think one of your Instagram pages is just you being a goose. And then I also think your TikTok is quite similar, and I think that's a really positive thing, because it allows people this space to come and go like, oh, I'm like, this is going to sound like I'm an idiot like that with my friends, and I act like this, and like I'm not always prim and proper, and these are the things that I like doing, and it's relatable, but it's also, that's who you are. So it's nice that that's relatable, and I think it's a good message to push to the youth. It's a good reminder.
It's way more fun to be yourself than to just look good all the time.
Sure. I think sometimes social media also has, people can hide behind screens, and cyberbullying is a huge issue within social media because you can make an anonymous account.
I definitely had an experience where I was kind of, there was just onslaught of online abuse, and it really impacted me. And like I said, I'm pretty headstrong. I'm not an anxious person. I never have been, and it introduced me to being an anxious person, and there's residual kind of anxiety still sometimes. Now I doubt myself a little bit more, which is really sad, and I'm trying to work on that. But yeah, I can't imagine. Gosh, we had Ask FM when I was a teenager, where someone could anonymously send things to you about you, and I remember that was really rough because a lot of people had sent me things that were really awful. And I found that really hard to stomach, and I think eventually just got off the platform and stopped using it because it was so yucky. But I can't remember now, Ask FM was kind of separate to social media. It wasn't like all encompassing. Now it's kind of like it's all in one space where you're consuming all that content all the time, and where your friends are consuming content and they're sending you videos and whatnot. You can't escape it. It's just there, or you're not involved. Like we said, the stats show that people have a fear of missing out. So I really feel for, teenagers who are using social media and can't kind of self-regulate, because I can't self-regulate sometimes, and I'm a grown adult who's really confident in themselves. So yeah, it's turning into a bit of a monster, isn't it? I mean, what kind of do you think is in store in the future? We have just had a child. We've got friends who have kids, or friends who are talking about having kids, and there's now conversation around absolutely not giving them access to the internet, kind of without supervision or a time limit on it at certain ages. What does the future look like for when, this very tech heavy world where we want kids to be involved in tech and, not fall behind and keep up with the times, and also not fall behind at school and keep up with their friends in terms of, you want to be involved in things and not feel left out, but then, still kind of censoring a bit of what's out there.
It's in the data, like depression, anxiety, suicidality, like all these things have rocketed since, the 2010, 2012s, where social media came to light and had widespread adoption. So it's like knowing those things and then still wanting your kid to be a part of it is almost like it's silly, So as in, I got no problem. I'm not going to have any problem with my kid being on the internet when he's older and exploring and doing things. But I also think that you need them to be doing that from like the safety of your own, like their own home, and perhaps on like a family computer whereby you can see what they're doing.
We all used to have one big screen in the house, didn't we?
Yeah,
and
look
then
at their
your parents
histories
could walk
even,
past and see what you were doing.
Yeah, I think that, giving a kid access to social media on a phone in the like the security of their own bedroom, I think is quite a detrimental thing for them. And I think it leads back to, the depression, the anxiety, the loneliness that comes from like the doom scrolling as well. Like, and, we as adults, can have lazy days where we suffer from this, or, when we're on long trips somewhere, we just, you scroll.
Lach calls it the void. So sometimes he texts me and I don't get a notification if I'm on TikTok. It's really weird. I don't know if they're hiding the notification somehow, but he'll like call out from the other room and say, "You on the void," because I'm literally in this black hole, of content, consuming content. And I look at the time and an hour's passed and I've just consumed hundreds of little 2-second videos.
Yeah, and so I think that endless scrolling, which sort of takes kids away, or takes everyone away from their real life, whether that be like work, relationships, study. It's like getting into that like perpetual cycle of like, what do I do now? I'm gonna open up my phone and just get into countless videos of this fast-paced content, and that leads on to the next thing. Like all this consumption of videos that are like 5 seconds, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 10 seconds. It's like you can watch 100 things in a few minutes, and it kind of trains our brains not to be able to like concentrate for like long periods of time. So when you have kids consuming that on the way to school, lunchtime, recess, when they get home from school, and then they go to school, and you're expecting them to sit there and look at a teacher and learn for hour stints at a time, and then you're expecting them to go home and study and then sit at a dinner table and have conversations. It's like it just turns into this like absolute cesspool where like they'll no longer be able to do those things because their attention is so on this fast-paced consumption of media that they'll like you won't be able to concentrate for long periods of time.
Well, I think it's our responsibility as the next generation of parents to make sure that we're kind of guiding our kids in the right direction. It's a huge responsibility. But yeah, I think that's probably the only step forward in terms of shifting things, really. Okay, guys, we are kicking off our Ask Mum and Dad. As always, we're keeping you anonymous. Don't worry, we're not exposing you here. My dilemma for Mum and Dad is this. I live with my boyfriend of 2.5 years and we never have sex anymore. I've talked to him about it and he has explained that he feels self-conscious of his body. Since I've met him, he's always been a bit self-conscious of his weight. He used to be super fit and play high-level sports but doesn't anymore. He's not fat at all but isn't as fit as he used to be, which is why he's insecure. I've expressed to him that I find him attractive and he makes me feel good, etc. And I've played a big part in supporting him with healthy eating and fitness. He went on a holiday recently and when we were apart, he seemed to be excited again and lots of chat about how he was keen to see me again and what we would do. You know what I mean? Wink, wink. But when he got back, we did it once and now it's back to what it was before he left. I know he really cares about me and this isn't about me, but I keep trying to talk to him about how it makes me feel and trying to figure out how to fix it, but I never get a proper answer. And it feels like I just have to wait until he suddenly feels confident again. This has been going on for a good few months now and it's really starting to get to me, especially as a girl in her 20s with high libido. Would really appreciate both of your opinions. Wishing you both the best.
That's tough.
Yeah, I agree.
Tough.
It is
She
really
sounds
tough.
like a lovely lady, but
Yeah, we think you're lovely.
as a bloke, yeah, I don't know. I guess like there can come times in life where you have a lower libido, but normally that is because of something. So as in, whether that be your health or, I know it happens to like bodybuilders, for example, when they get to like really low percentages of body fat, they kind of like messes with their hormones and libido. But unless your partner's there, I'm not really sure. But also it can be a sign of maybe a deeper seated issue of perhaps some depression or something, which, would affect your ability to sort of enjoy, sexual activities with your partner. So maybe something to think about, having an open and honest conversation with him around, maybe things outside of the bedroom that might be affecting the bedroom. So whether that be his, spurring on his mental health or, maybe just double check in on that real quickly before trying to solve it in another way.
Well, it sounds like his weight it's affecting him mentally, but I'm not sure if he's doing anything to, change that, or if he wants to do anything to change that, or if he's just kind of accepted, okay, like this is how things are now, but it's still affecting him mentally.
Well, that would be a bit silly if it was affecting him and he didn't want to do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps now that he's not playing in, such a high level of sport, he doesn't feel like he needs to keep it up. So, his motivation's not there, but he still doesn't feel great about himself. It's really tricky because, like I said, I think you're doing kind of everything that you really can in this scenario to, support your partner and say, I'm here for you, whatever you need, happy to go at your pace. That's all well and good. But it's hard when you feel like you're waiting on someone to come to the table on something that, you feel that they kind of should be in a relationship. And you do need to be kind of delicate with these things. But I think Lach might have a point in that it could be something that's a bit deeper down, that he needs to explore. It could be that he's maybe got kind of that maybe he's a bit depressed and doesn't quite know that, or maybe he has anxiety around, performing in the bedroom now because he feels like, he can't do it in a way that he'd like to. So, yeah, it's a really tricky one. I think what I would suggest is perhaps gauging whether or not he would be open to exploring ways of kind of dealing with it on his own, because obviously it's a him issue, not a them issue. You know, is he open to therapy? Does he talk to his friends about his issues? Like, has he got people there that he can kind of lean on who, you know, like that you kind of get that support with, and you might, you know, discover something that, you know, unlocks your confidence again. So, you know, maybe asking him, hey, are you willing to kind of look into this? You know, if it's not fixing not the problem, but, you know, the situation physically, maybe it's then delving down deeper into what the mental issue is and kind of getting over that hurdle for himself so that, you know, he can be himself again. Because, yeah, I imagine that would be really difficult.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just like in terms of like physicality and things that you can personally do, like it sounds like you're already, you know, hyping him a little bit and telling him, you know, that he looks good and that you're attracted to him and stuff. But yeah, little moments that don't have to be, you know, super sexual, and doesn't have to be sex at the end of the day, but, you know, little kisses and touches of the arm and, you know, like little things just to show him that you're super interested and you're keen. And even if you know, you sort of like get things going and then you pull back, you know, just to reignite his sort of excitement with, you know,
perhaps you need to instigate a bit more, and he'll maybe take your lead for a while, and maybe that will make him kind of feel more confident in himself again. Yeah,
speaking from experience, I'm a big enjoyer of someone else instigating. Yeah, obviously someone else being my darling wife. Yeah.
Just anyone. If you want to send us an Ask Mum and Dad, you can at madaboutYou@novapodcast.com.au. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We've very much appreciated your presence. What's that face that you're pulling at me? Leave a review. And we'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.